mobs and minecarts are broken, and these crazy wither cages are no longer possible. Hello there, right here we have a brand new version. This is for Java. We got 1.20.2 release candidate 1. So first we've seen the snapshots with the W's and the A's in the names, and then we've seen the release candidates, and then we've seen the pre-releases. And then after pre-releases comes these release candidates. Release candidates means that they're just going to try to fix the most important bugs before actually putting out the full release. So if there's no bugs in this version here, that means we will be seeing the full release of 1.20.2 coming to Java probably within a week. So let's take a look at what they all change and see how it's going to affect the game. First up in release candidate 2, they changed how you can find stuff inside crafting tables. Previously, typing in torch would only show you things that had the word TOR in the beginning of the word. But this change came with several problems, like it couldn't find things that were in other languages like Japanese, and in languages where there was hyphens between words like in German. Plus, uncraftable variants like birch plank here says you can actually craft it even though you don't have anything in your inventory to craft it with. Plus, some words with spaces and underscores weren't showing up, and if you would use the commands to give yourself a recipe, that way the game knows that you have the recipe to use and then take that recipe away, it wasn't working properly. Because of all the different problems, they decided to revert the entire book searching changes that they did previously. So typing in a word will find you other things like this detector, which has TOR at the end of it. And they said that they will revisit this whole book thing in the next batch of bug fixes after they do the full release of 1.20.2. That way they'll have time to test it thoroughly and fix all these bugs before pushing out as a full release. But they also fixed some really old ones, like this one's back from 1.10, where when the player would log in, their head would always face south, meaning that even though their body is facing forward, for other players it looked like their head was facing backwards, and that's how you get these possessed looking players. But there's still this weird bug when you have a mob that's hostile and you relog. Notice that it was kind of looking towards my direction, but once loaded up, the game will automatically face the mob in the west direction. And it doesn't matter how many times you do this, the mob will always just reset facing west. Not sure if this is done intentionally or if this is actually a bug. They also fixed this weird bug from the previous versions where some mobs would just vanish, like this villager here just vanished in front of our eyes when relogging. Speaking of things not showing up, when it comes to the fires put off by the ender crystals in the end dimension, it wasn't actually putting off light. You can see there's light on this side, but in this other chunk over here, it's actually dark. So you won't run into this problem anymore. A problem that just came out during the snapshots is that boats when placed into water would rotate all the way around and always face south. So when you would hop into it, you'd be facing the wrong direction that you placed it in. Very strange stuff, and luckily they got this fixed so it won't be in the full release. With the recent game rule where you can turn off ender pearls from vanishing upon death, when set to false, sometimes when you would throw an ender pearl, it would actually make the ender pearl look like it was missing, although it was just invisible for the client to see. So no longer get freaked out and think your ender pearl vanished, as you will be able to see it now. Using the locate command, you can actually find villages that have the new type of villager maps, such as one that will show you where the deserts are. And searching for this should only work if you actually turned on the experimental snapshots. Problem was, it was also trying to work when you didn't have the experimental snapshots turned on. Other bugs fixed in pre-release 2 include being able to tab out command block, accessory button given its own string, click to move cursor fix, narrators narrating the correct things, macros converting things to scientific notations, and making sure the full screen resolution is translatable. They also fixed 2 different crashes, one from way back in 1.17 and the other one from back in 1.18. For technical changes, they upgraded the research pack and they accounted for new icons. The next version was pre-release 3, where they fixed 3 different bugs. First up, they made sure that hoglins could breed, for some reason that broke in a previous snapshot, so they could produce those babies. Custom records that didn't have any components won't have their attributes stripped. And the height in which players was actually sitting in a minecart was changed just in a previous snapshot. So here you can see what it looked like in the last full release. Player's full body is there, but some of it's underneath the minecart. But during the snapshots, it accidentally changed this, so now the player is sunken down even deeper into the minecart, with its head barely showing over top of it. So they went ahead and moved the player back up again, so they would be just like they were before when sitting inside a minecart. That way it won't break any things where players sit in minecarts and do different things, which I have tons of different farms that use this, so it's a good thing that they fixed this. But it turns out when they fixed this one bug, they actually made some new problems in the game, which we'll take a look at just after looking at the next pre-release, which is pre-release 4, which added in a data pack change, so there is a damage type which is called always kills armor stands for damage types that should always fully kill the armor stand. Remember the crazy armor stand tricks I showed earlier this week? Well, it works because the damage is hitting the top of the armor stands, but it doesn't actually kill them. If you haven't already seen this video, it covers tons of different wither cages which you can use with armor stands, as well as how you can easily kill the wither just by hiding within armor stands. I'll put that down in the description, you guys can check it out after watching this video. And this new data pack change affects this trick here. But now that is fixed, so it will just destroy the armor stand and then kill whatever is hiding underneath of the armor stand. So if you want to use this trick, make sure to remove the wither before upgrading to the full release of 1.20.2 when that comes out. It was a really cool and fun trick to play around with, and you can still use it in past versions. And that's typically how it goes when there's something that seems really cool but is also game breaking, then they remove it from the game. I just didn't expect them to remove it so quickly. Under a week's time they actually got it fixed, and it's going to be in the full release, where typically they would end up just waiting to put it into the next one. Now, withers not being able to destroy armor stands was actually a bug report, even though it doesn't show up down here where they normally show all the different bugs that they fixed. This is because the bug report itself is actually not viewable by people. And typically if there's a bug that's related to like duping items, then they will put it as private so not everybody can see it and exploit it before it gets fixed. But this is really unusual because this bug is actually a very minor one compared to ones where you can duplicate infinite amounts of items or ones where you can continue to crash servers. And I know the person who made the bug report, and they didn't actually make this private. So that means one of the Mojang developers for some reason set this bug to being private. So besides that hidden bug fix, it also came in with two other ones which have to do with error logs showing up. Which brings us to today's newest version, which is the release candidate 1. Remember earlier when I talked about how the players were sitting too low in the minecart? So they just moved the players upwards, so they were the same height as before. Well, this was not only applied to players, this was also applying to mobs. And during my live stream, where I'm still working on my infinitely automatic mob head farm, we all of a sudden noticed that the farm wasn't working properly. Normally the creepers would fall down here and then get struck by lightning, turn into charge creepers, but all of a sudden they weren't. We couldn't figure out exactly why, but after looking at a bunch of different things and figuring out exactly what version it changed in, then we could figure out exactly which bug fix caused it. And then we figured out that not only did they move the players upwards, they moved all mobs so that they are taller. Now, speaking of Twitch streams, if you guys do have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, be sure to go over to my Twitch, which I'll link down in the description, and use your free monthly subscription to help me get to my sub goal over there. Even if you don't watch my streams, it's a great way to support me, and Twitch will actually pay me. You just have to remember to renew it monthly. You can also get a Twitch sub for free, which I'll also have linked below. And thank you everyone who has been doing this already, as it's really been helping me out. Now, getting back to the mobs being moved, here you can see what the mob looked like before the change. The mob's feet are at the very bottom of the minecart, where this little white line is the same as the bottom of the white line of the minecart. But they accidentally moved the mob upward, so now the mob is inside of the minecart. So here's a better picture where you can see the witch is sitting nicely inside the minecart. And also you can see what it looks like when they changed it. The witch is sitting really tall in the minecart, would probably even suffocate in some scenarios. So I wrote up a bug report and put in all the information that we knew, saying that the bug was related to the previous change where they made the player sit up taller, and also showed the clip of my charge creeper farm and explained how it used to charge the creepers, but it wasn't doing it anymore. But this wasn't the only problem I noticed. I also noticed that we had this situation with witches and snow golems. So I have a snow golem hitting a witch to make infinite damage potions, but it turns out when before the witch would never be able to hit the snow golem with its potions even after hundreds of hours, all of a sudden it was just able to hit it right in front of her eyes. So I also made a bug report about this, but it turns out that this witch is sitting in a minecart, and you can see the witch is sitting up really high. Therefore the witch could arch its potions far enough that would actually hit the golem when before it couldn't. But it turns out the witch throwing potion bug was related to the mob sitting in the minecart. And the good news is, in the release candidate, they've fixed my bug here. And the bug report even got attributed on the Minecraft page about this, which shows the witch in the minecart and it getting aggro. So besides the change where they said they positioned all the entities and writing in minecarts have been adjusted to make more sense, they also came in and fixed two loot tables, which for some reason being tied up with the loot inside of chests, rather than being part of entities, which they now are. Now see how I do the big brain designing at my Twitch live streams, which I do 4 times a week. Stop in, say hello, and chill as we come up with the craziest designs in Minecraft. I appreciate everyone who's been a supporter of mine, either through Patreon's, Discord subscription, or even a Twitch sub. Otherwise, you can always leave a like, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!